Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take the sources you share, sift through them, and distill the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight. Today, we are undertaking a pretty unbelievable journey. We're climbing over 2,400 meters, that's nearly 8,000 feet, to a stone city built literally in the clouds. We are diving into the history, the staggering engineering, and the spiritual secrets of Machu Picchu.
It really is. I mean, it's the ultimate testament to human logistical and architectural genius. When you start digging into the sources, you immediately hit this central, almost impossible premise. You have this complex, fully functional city built by the Inca Emperor Pachacutec Yupanqui in the 15th century on a completely isolated, steep mountain peak.
And the detail that just it sets this apart from almost anything else is what they didn't have. They built this entire masterpiece without the wheel, without, sophisticated metal tools, and with no draft animals, no horses, no oxen.
Nothing. Yet the sources describe these stone blocks, some weighing tons, that had to be brought up from the riverbed far, far below.
And then fitted together with this cylindrical precision.
That logistics problem is really the core mystery. I mean, you think about the scale. It's not just moving massive stones up 8,000 feet from the Urubamba River, but doing it over terrain that's prone to landslides and just torrential rain. It stops being construction and becomes this monumental feat.
So our mission today is to go way beyond the postcard view. We want to uncover the advanced science, the seismic engineering, and the deep Inca cosmology that allowed the city to exist. Not just to exist for 100 years, but to survive centuries of total isolation, preserving its perfection for you to see today.
Okay, let's unpack this engineering miracle first, because the preservation of the city, it just defies logic. We're talking about a location that is, well, highly volatile, prone to heavy rain, and critically, it's in one of the world's most active earthquake zones. So the question is, how did a city built entirely without mortar manage to stand perfectly for 500 years?
That is the critical aha moment that the sources really hammer home. Machu Picchu is built directly across two major geological fault lines.
Wait, on purpose? Well, the Inca were not ignorant of the seismic activity. They engineered the city because of it. They turned a problem into a solution.
So the famous stonework, that incredible precision where the blocks interlock, that's part of it.
Precisely. The blocks are cut so tightly, polished even, that you famously can't slide a credit card between them. But the real genius, the secret, is in the joints. During a major earthquake, this design allows the stones to literally dance.
Dance?
Yeah, they're designed to shift slightly with the tremor, absorb all that energy, and then their own immense weight just pulls them right back into their original stable position. Anything built with rigid mortar would have just cracked and collapsed centuries ago.
Okay, but I read that something like 60% of the work is hidden. That seems like a massive waste of labor for a city that was only around for a century.
You'd think so, but it was the absolute opposite of inefficient. It was essential for survival. The estimates are staggering. 60% of the total construction, maybe more, is subterranean.
And what was it for?
Two life-saving functions. First, deep foundations to stabilize the peak itself. But second, and this is crucial, it's for sophisticated drainage. The area gets torrential rainfall. Without that layered system of crushed rock and gravel underneath everything, water would have destabilized the entire mountain. Catastrophic landslides.
So they weren't just preventing the city from falling down, they were preventing the mountain from washing away.
Exactly. They basically built a mountain inside of a mountain to keep the whole thing together.
And the logistics of getting all that material, I mean, the construction took about 25 years. How did they move these multi-ton blocks? The Incas used the MITA system, right? A kind of public service labor?
Yes. The MITA system provided the massive human labor needed, maybe tens of thousands of workers over that period. And the sources point to a few methods. On flat ground, they probably used wooden logs as rollers and simple levers. But for the vertical challenge, hauling stone up from the valley, they likely used a sophisticated network of ramps and what modern sources theorize was a kind of rope track system.
Like an ancient manpower-driven funicular railway.
That's the theory. Using sturdy ropes, maybe timber slides built into the mountain slopes, and just relying entirely on synchronized human muscle to haul these incredible loads.
Every single stone.
Every single stone, every bit of crushed rock for the drainage. It just forces us to redefine what we think of as primitive technology.
Okay, so we've seen the incredible engineering, but that begs the deeper question, why? Why this impossible site? Considering the grueling labor, what was the spiritual why behind the structural how-to?
Right. And if we connect this to the broader Inca worldview, the location makes profound sense. The city was likely a sacred ceremonial site. a residence for high-status individuals, maybe 700 or so nobles and priests.
So it wasn't a typical city. It was exclusive.
Very. And the main driver was cosmology. The Incas believed their emperor was a direct descendant of the sun god, Inti.
So building higher was about getting closer to the divine.
Precisely. Building at 2,430 meters was a deliberate act of elevation. It physically placed their ruling class closer to their greatest god and the sacred mountains, which they called Apis. Their entire philosophy was built on harmony with nature, not dominating it. They saw the sun, the rain, the stars as living gods.
So that reverence wasn't just mystical. It forced them into advanced science, into practicality.
Exactly. I mean, if you deify the rain and the sun, you have to master their consequences. That's why their astronomy drove their amazing agricultural planning. They used the sun's angle, celestial movements, to predict planting times and optimize their harvests.
Which brings us back to the terraces. We talked about them as engineering, but they were also the city's food source.
A perfect marriage of the two. Those terraces weren't just stacked dirt. They were multi-layered structures with specific drainage to resist erosion. This allowed for year-round cultivation, creating these little microclimates at different heights. They had a reliable food supply for the whole city.
And stored the extra.
Yep. They stored any excess in special north-facing stone deposits that acted like natural refrigerators to keep it all cool.
So the entire city is basically this elaborate spiritual and astronomical blueprint. The architecture is a reflection of their cosmos.
That is the ultimate takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
The city's orientation isn't random. It's heavily influenced by those sacred apis all around it. The peaks were seen as ancestors, as deities. And what's fascinating is how they integrated that cosmology into the stone itself. The famous Intihuatana stone, the sunstone, wasn't just a carving. It was a calibrated instrument.
An instrument for what? What did it do?
It was essentially a solar observatory. It precisely tracked the solstices and equinoxes, allowing the priests to symbolically hitch the sun to the earth, ensuring the return of Intias every year.
Wow.
It was this constant physical reinforcement of the link between the celestial and the terrestrial.
And we see that belief system in the symbolic animals too, right? The three worlds.
Yes, the three levels of existence are integrated everywhere. The serpent represents the underworld and water, so you see it in the subterranean designs. The puma represents the current world, the world of the living, and it's sometimes integrated into the layout of the temples. And then the condor represents the spiritual upper world.
So the symbols weren't just decoration, they actually defined the function of the space.
Exactly, and they wove all these symbols, plus the chakana, the step cross representing Mother Nature, into their textiles, which were also used to pass down stories without a formal writing system.
Okay, so what does all this mean for us today? This magnificent city, after 100 years of perfect operation, just disappears. How did it stay lost for centuries, and what's the experience like for people who travel there now?
Well, the city's greatest secret weapon was its isolation. It was abandoned pretty quickly, about 100 years after it was built, not because of a war, but because of a devastating smallpox epidemic brought by Europeans. And crucially, the Spanish invaders under Francisco Pizarro never found it.
They just missed it.
Completely. It was so remote, and the cloud forest swallowed it so fast that it remained untouched, perfectly preserved from the conquest.
And then, of course, the famous story of Hiram Bingham.
Yes, the American explorer who brought it to international attention in 1911. But the sources are clear. He was actually looking for Vilcabamba, the final Inca refuge, which is another 70 kilometers deeper into the forest. He wrongly believed Machu Picchu was Vilcabamba when he found it.
So he stumbled upon one of history's greatest sites while looking for the wrong one.
Basically, yeah. And we have to acknowledge the counterclaim that local Quechua families had been farming on the terraces for years. They knew about it since at least 1901. So Bingham's discovery was really its introduction to the wider world.
Right. So for the modern traveler, this place is now one of the new 7 wonders of the world. What do people need to know about visiting today, given how fragile it is?
The pressure on the ruins is immense, so conservation is key. The quotas are extremely strict. Daily visitors are capped at 2,500 for Machu Picchu itself. And for that classic photo you always see, you have to climb Huayna Picchu. Only 400 people a day are allowed up there, so tickets sell out months in advance.
And just getting there is a pilgrimage in itself.
It is. The usual route is by train to Aguas Calientes at the base. From there, you take a shuttle bus up the Hiram Bingham Highway. But for anyone feeling adventurous, you can skip the bus and do the challenging but free 90-minute walk up the ancient path following Bingham's original route.
You mentioned the classic photo. The peak in that photo isn't actually the best viewpoint, which is an important distinction.
It is. Most iconic photos feature Huayna Picchu, the young peak. But the much taller Machu Picchu mountain, the old peak, offers a far superior panoramic 360-degree view of the entire site, the terraces, the river canyon.
So if you want the full context, that's the climb to make.
Without a doubt.
And finally, you mentioned a hidden museum that sort of fills in the gaps that the ruins themselves leave.
Yes, for anyone who feels the main site lacks some context, the sources point to the Museo de Sitio Manuel Chávez Balón. It's a bit out of the way on a dirt road, about a 30-minute walk from Aguas Calientes, but it is invaluable. It has original artifacts and details about the excavations. It really explains the why of the location in a way the ruins alone can't. It makes a whole experience complete.
This deep dive has really shown a stunning synthesis of ancient science, spirituality, and just immense logistical brilliance. The Incas created this complex, self-sustaining city, perfectly optimized for its environment, using only observation and organized labor.
It is truly breathtaking. They didn't just build a city, they built a sanctuary designed to outlast the mountain itself, using techniques that are still considered advanced civil engineering today.
And that brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. The sources tell us that the Incas placed 60% of their construction underground for drainage and stability. We also know the area is overgrown cloud forest, and that new terraces are still being opened to the public. Given that, and the Incas' deep dedication to celestial alignments, this raises an important question. How many other secrets, maybe sacred paths, hidden storage facilities, or even smaller untouched structures built with those same principles, are still waiting to be discovered in the dense forest all around the main site? What deeper understanding of Inca life are we yet to uncover?
We'll leave you with that question as you contemplate the old peak and the secrets it might still hold.
Until next time, keep digging and keep learning.